We're talking about Phoenix in this video. If you want to support me and support any of the work that I do, you can join the Patreon on multiple tiers. I also spent yesterday talking to 3 individuals who happened to just reach out to me, both not together, just they happened, all 3 reached out, and we were able to work out a situation where I was just able to meet with them one-on-one and just talk about approach, talk about their lines, whatever the case may be. I don't advertise that, but if you want that one-on-one time or something, I'm sure we can figure out a time and a payment that would work for you. So if you want to do that, feel free to reach out and let me know if you want that. When we look at Phoenix, and yes, I know you're going to hear about it a lot. You've probably already heard about it a lot. The new package they're bringing to the racetrack this weekend and everything like that. I'm not going to bore you too much into that, as you've already heard it. Just the major 2 points that I want to look at is lack of downforce and the 2-inch spoiler. Now, when I approach Phoenix and short tracks, and really any track in general, and there's some people who are like, oh, you need to look at a driver's track history. You need to look at practice data. This is how I just usually approach the shorter tracks is, yes, look at the practice data, see where people are off the track, see where they qualify, because that's a major attribute or trait that leans to them being a possible lap leader or fast lap getter or not, and where they are in terms of pit selection. Those are the 3 things I'm looking at this weekend, which is why, look, I can't make projections until the qualifying order is out, until we know qualifying. At that point, we look at practice. Okay, we look at to see specifically here, because we're gonna have a long practice session. We have a long run. We should have a fantastic idea of where these guys are at in terms of speed. That's really what I'm doing. Now, the other data point that I'm looking at is track history in a sense of like, okay, I want to see how people did when this car actually, had low downforce. Okay, so for me personally, I am not looking at the fall race from last year. I am not looking at the spring race from last year. Okay, the championship races, we've got to have to handicap those because half the competition, more than half the field, is not even racing. They don't want to mess up the championship 4 drivers, We can look at spring races and stuff, but last year, there's no data point I could look at that I feel comfortable in. First race on a short track for the next gen car. I'm not going to use that at any point. Okay, so what am I looking at, Brandon? Well, I'm not looking at 2022. I'm not looking at 2021. I'm not looking at 2020. I'm not looking at 2019. I think the main years, if you are looking at track data, it needs to be 2018 to 2017. Okay. And the main reason being is, yes, look, 2016 had 750 horsepower, and as I said, we're at 670 right now. However, the splitter was 3.5 inches tall. That's a major concern. When we look at 2017, we had roughly 600 pounds of downforce. When we look at this weekend's race, they haven't put out there the amount of downforce that we're looking at being exerted on the car. But when we look, where did my freaking thing go? Dude, I just X out of this. I did. There's no way I didn't X out of it. There we go. When we look at 2017 and the downforce, we had a 2.375 inch spoiler in 2017. And the same spoiler was returned in 2018 with the low downforce. Those are the 2 years I want to look at. If I'm looking at track history, if I'm looking at data for any driver, those are the 2 years I'm looking at. I'm not wasting time looking at recent history. Now, some people might call that ignorant. Some people might call that stupid. But when we look at these years, who was fast? Okay, yes, and we see a drastic shift in terms of who was performing. Let's use Kyle Busch for an example, real fast. Okay, looking at all his history, looking at all his track history, and we'll break down actual races and drivers and stuff. But Kyle Busch is a fantastic example of how the drivers kind of shifted a little, and Harvick as well. Harvick, tricks guys like this. But look at Kyle Busch, and we're just looking at his finishes right here. I understand that I prefer looking at race rating where people are running, but just a glance, you can see a big difference here. So we have 777, 25th, 11th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, 2nd, 7th as we continue to head towards 2018 to 2017. We saw that Kyle Busch specifically was one of the guys who was fantastic during the low downforce, high horsepower package in NASCAR of the recent era, of the last 10 years at Phoenix. Fantastic. We did see him slightly fall back through the field a little bit. We saw Larson also be fast. Okay, he has a 40th and an 18th 2000 in the fall race 2017, 18th 2000 in 2018 spring race, 3rd 2018 fall race. When we look at those races specifically, when you look at Kyle Larson, let me find Larson real fast. Let me go ahead and look. You have Larson, basically starting third in 2017, leading 12 laps and blowing a motor on lap 104. So that's his first DNF. That's his first bad break. He finishes. Actually, he gets moved out of the way by Ryan New. Actually, no, Newman did not go to the championship that year. This is the March race, 2017. It's not when he's moved out of the race or moved out of the way. He finishes second to Ryan Newman, 2017. When we look at 2018, Larson finishes 18th here. Yet again, leads 54 laps. And then in the other race, 2018, he finishes third. So look, Larson was up front in every single one of these races. Okay, Larson should be a contender regardless of the package. I understand. I just went from Kyle Busch to looking at Kyle Larson, and I specifically wanted to explain his 40th and 18th place finishes there. But he was a contender in all these races. Okay, when we look back at other drivers who also performed well during this era, Kevin Harvick is right there. Denny Hamlin should have won like almost every single race here. Same thing with Kyle Busch. Like when we look back at Hamlin specifically, look, Hamlin is incredible. When we look at his finish in 2017, has the best car, is like miles ahead of the field. It's not even close where Hamlin is. If I can find his stats right fast. And then you're going to get a kick out of what happened to Hamlin here. If I can find him. Jeez Louise, driver. Anyway, when we're looking at Hamlin's DNF, I understand you're like, whoa, man, Denny Hamlin, crashed late at the end of the race. What is he doing? What's going on here? Why did he, he was leading a good portion of the race, and then he gets a DNF. Like, what's going on here? Well, you got to remember, this is following, Hamlin moving Larson out of the way, not Larson, Hamlin moving Chase Elliott out of the way, and at Martinsville in 2017, Hamlin has the best car the entire day. The best car, 193 laps led. We're coming towards the end of the race. We're in traffic. Chase Elliott basically not only gets to the side of Denny Hamlin on his inside, leaving turn 2, which is turn 2 now, rubs his side skirt around him, and also puts him in the wall down the back straightaway. Hamlin then blows a tire like 4 laps later and DNFs. So that's where his 35th finish comes from. But look, Hamlin, 35th, 11th, what am I doing? 4th and 13th, like Hamlin is going to be there. And the reason I'm focused on Hamlin, I haven't focused on Truex I mentioned Kyle Busch, but when you look at how Joe Gibbs ran at this time and the drivers that they had, and I mean Kyle Busch as well. I mean, look, Kyle Busch, just real quick, just raw speed this year, fantastic, should be a fantastic play this week. But just looking at where these guys are at, Mark Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, the two other main guys that I want to consider when I'm looking at this weekend's race. Who am I not looking at? I'm not looking at Joey Logano. Okay, I'm not because of what happened this previous week. Okay, that's a 1.5. This is a short track, not what I want to look at. But this is not when Joey Logano was fast this racetrack. That's just how it is. Okay, so the main 4 to 5 guys I'm looking at based on where these guys were in 2017 and 2018 are Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Larson, Truex, and Harvick. Those are the 5 guys that, in my opinion, stand out of where we're at. Now, you might be thinking, I don't necessarily want to just play a ton of Harvick. Why am I going to focus on Harvick so much? Well, look, Harvick you can make arguments for. Truex you can make arguments for. I don't know why Truex, look, it baffles my brain. I don't understand. I don't get it at all. Same thing happened last year. I'm imploring you guys. I just want to grab you and shake you. You should play 25 to 30% Denny Hamlin and Martin Truex Jr. every single week until these guys get into the 10K range. Makes absolutely no sense regardless of the track. Makes no sense at all. But this weekend specifically, Hamlin, 96. Truex, 92. Harvick, 9,000. What's that? Larson, you could very easily get Larson, Truex, and Hamlin in a line. Unbelievable. That's going to, also, yes, we have a lot of unknowns. I expect a lot of wrecks in this race. I expect people losing it, specifically out of turn 2, now entering down that back straightaway. That just seems to be the more trickiest turns of where the lack of downforce is going to be huge. We saw multiple drivers spin out in that area in January. But, man, Larson, Hamlin, Truex in one line, $600-$700 left on average. I'm probably going to just play that core at least 4 times, okay? I don't know how many lines I'm going to do this weekend. As I said, I think this week is going to be a bit crazy. I personally might just cut myself off at 10 so I don't get myself in trouble when guys end up wrecking out and stuff. But Larson, Hamlin, Truex, I love those 3. I see no reason to not chase those guys, okay? If you want to swap one in for Kyle Busch, I completely understand. But Hamlin and Truex should absolutely be just plays that you get to. It makes no sense at all, okay? That's my main takeaway of where I'm looking at in terms of where these guys are, in terms of where I want to follow these guys. Because when we look specifically at how many leaders and how many lap led guys, how many fast lap guys we need to target at least 3 people. Okay, and I understand that I always want to try and get to more. And look, there's going to be people scraping off fast laps throughout the race. But you need to look at your lines and realistically say, can 3 of my main expensive guys lead laps in this race? If that's a no, I'm going to try and get in. I'm going to try and swap one out and get another one in that can lead laps. That's just where I'm at. I mean, getting these laps led and fast laps are going to be absolutely huge. When we look at where these guys were in terms of starting positions in these years here, because I know some people are going to probably be concerned about starting position, especially with the dumb way that they set the grid now in the 2 groups. You're going to have some fast cars just start outside the top 10. That's just how it's going to be, But when we look at the pole sitters specifically, 2017 pole sitter in the spring and the fall race, pole sitter leads 11 laps. In the fall race, pole sitter leads 11 laps. In the spring race 2017, leads 82 laps. And why am I not saying that? It doesn't matter. The driver doesn't matter. I'm just explaining what people are saying here, or what people are most likely to say. What is the leader doing? What is the pole sitter doing? Pole sitter led 3 in the spring race in 2018. Pole sitter led 73 in the fall race of 2018. Now I've said that. Now we can talk about the drivers, what happened, where these guys are. Now, 2017 fall race, Ryan Blaney starts first, leads 11 laps. Hamlin starts second, leads 192. Larson starts third, leads 12. Elliott starts fourth, leads 34. Matt Kenseth starts seventh, eventually ends the race, leads 62. That's where your lap leaders came from. When we look at the spring race 2017, Logano leads 82 laps, starts first. Larson starts fourth, leads 3. Chase Elliott starts seventh, leads 106. Larson starts ninth, leads 114. Spring race 2018. Truex Jr. starts first, leads 3. Larson starts second, leads 54. Hamlin starts sixth, leads 33. Kyle Busch starts 7th, leads 128. Harvick starts 10th, leads 38. Byron starts 11th, leads 15. And Newman starts 13th, leads 23. Most of the smaller laps led are more just where people are pitting, discrepancies in pitting early, pitting late, staying out and lead laps. Fall race 2018, Harvick starts first, leads 73. Elliott starts second, leads 16. Blaney starts fourth, leads leads 3. Let's see. Kyle Busch starts 6th, leads 117. Eric Jones starts 7th and leads 11. Keselowski starts 12th, leads 32. Kurt Busch starts 14th and leads 53. So, just very quickly going over that, in my opinion, what I would want to do, building projections at least, if you are starting third, just, kind of eyeballing it, looking around, probably going to project you for 14 to 20 laps led. And why am I saying this? Because I truly believe this is probably how, and this is not, putting in pit selection, putting in where these guys are in practice data. But like if you're starting third, I'm probably expecting you to lead 20 laps, probably 11 fast laps around there. That's not a wild projection. Okay, if you're starting first, probably going to project you for 50 laps led. You know, probably 40 fast laps. Not a crazy projection. Also, a lot of when it comes to short tracks, a lot of projections are going to be like medium projections. So you're going to have like guys projected for like 90, 100, 105 fantasy points. For me, this is where I kind of like limit that, because when I'm building lineups, and if you have your pole sitter or the guy who's starting second, and you have him projected for like 135 points, okay, in my opinion, there's no difference between that and project him for 85 points. Like, so for me, I'll probably cap projections right around like 90 or 80 or something, and I want to try and get at least 3 of the top 10 guys, and probably 2 guys starting in top 5. Oddly enough, when you look at where in this era, and I think it's very driver dependent. Here, let me go ahead and well, I'll just keep talking. I think it's very driver dependent. When you look at starting positions in the top 5 that didn't lead laps in these 2 years, specifically 2018, 2017, let's look at these right quick. 2017 fall race. It's Blaney, Hamlin, Larson, Elliott, Truex, your top 5. Truex does not lead any laps in this race. A vast majority of the race is led between the top 4 starters. When you look at 2017, you have Logano, Blaney, Jr., Larson, McMurray. Okay, realistically, your top 5 here probably not going to get a lot of laps led. Okay, you have Ryan Blaney, and in this era of Ryan Blaney and the Wood brothers starting second, you can X him out. He did not lead any laps. Dale Earnhardt Jr., you suck, driver. I'm just kidding. I just like shit on Junior. Not going to lead laps. He's starting third. Like, it made sense that Junior would not lead laps in this race. Okay? Jay McMurray starting 5th in the Chip Ganassi 1 car. Are you kidding me? It makes sense he's not going to lead laps in this race. Okay? So when we see Chase Elliott, leading 106 laps from 7th, and we have Kyle Busch leading 114 laps from 9th, well, look at where these guys were starting. Look at the people around them when they were starting. Yes, it makes sense because Jones started 8th. He's not going to lead laps, okay? Keselowski started 6th here. He's not going to lead laps. McMurray started 5th, not going to lead laps, okay? So, yes, I understand, when we're looking at these races, we're seeing laps led, like, spread out. Like, why is the guy starting 7th leading so many laps in these races? Well, like, we have to look around and see the people who were leading laps, who are around these guys, okay? 2018, March race. Your starting positions, or your top 5 starters: Truex, Larson, Elliott, Bowman, Logano. Okay, Truex leads 3, Larson leads 54, Chase Elliott 0, Bowman 0, Logano 0, Hamlin, who's starting outside the top 5 and 6, 33. Kyle Busch starting outside the top 5, starting 7th, 128 laps. Okay, McMurray starts 8th, no laps led. Jones starts 9th, no laps led. Harvick starts 10th, 38 laps led. Like, when we look at these grids, at the point in time of where these guys are running and where they are racing and who was fast here, like, it makes sense that, yes, Hendrick did not lead laps in this situation. Elliott, Bowman, Logano did not lead laps in this race 2018 because they weren't fast at the time. Okay? Let's go over. And why am I focusing on these races so much in 2018 and 2017? I think you can learn more based on lineup construction, based on how these races played out, than you can looking at the recent races, because you haven't been able to pass recently. You weren't able to pass last year. That's why throw both those races out. I don't want to look at the end of the Gen 6 era because we're running low horsepower, high downforce. You can't pass in the, like, who were the drivers excelling here in this last race for Sunday, or on this last race November? Harvick starts 1st, leads 73. Elliott starts 2nd, leads 16th. Stenhouse Jr. starts 3rd in the 17 machine, leads 0. Wow, shocker. Ryan Blaney starts 4th, leads 3 laps. Wow, shocker. He was terrible early in his career, specifically at these races. Is my PC here yet? Let's see. Nope. Alex Bowman in the 88 machine. leads 0 laps. He starts 5th. No shocker. Wow, Alex Bowman was terrible at this time. Okay, literally just took over for Dale Earnhardt Jr. Okay, yes, sure, he had that one race that he filled in for Jr. led laps, but seriously, like, he's not leading laps here. Kyle Busch started 6th again. Kyle Busch did not start. He hasn't started in the top 5 in any of these races. Kyle Busch did not start top 5 in any of these races in 2017 and 2016 and led huge amount of laps because he knows what he wants at Phoenix. He knows what he wants in a long run car. We have Kyle Busch in an Xfinity Series race with a long practice session. Are you kidding me? Kyle Busch should be an absolute contender here. Okay, so when we're looking at the starting grid and we're looking at where these guys qualify, I don't think it's that crazy to objectively look at your starting 5. Take out the 2 guys that clearly are not going to lead laps, okay? Based on just the caliber driver they are and based on the practice data, in my opinion, it'll be a true 1-to-1 battle. Like, driver A is starting 1st, driver B is starting 2nd, driver C is starting 3rd. Who of those 3 drivers were the slowest in practice? Okay? Driver C or driver D starts 4th, driver E starts 5th. Who were the slowest of those drivers? Let's eliminate at least 2 guys in the top 5 and not really focus on playing them. Who outside the top 5 is probably going to have a good long run car who just doesn't have the short run speed? Okay? Who's probably going to start 6th, 7th, or 8th. Like, I don't think it's that crazy to look at building lineups like that. To look at, just building that way. I understand I really haven't focused on amount of, like, salary drivers this week, so let's kind of get into that. But this is where my research is at. This is where I'm at this weekend entering Phoenix. It's 2018, 2017. Yeah, so you might be asking yourself, like, oh, Brandon, what about Chastain? He wasn't in a good car at those times. What about Suarez? Like, yeah, that's where I would divert to the practice data and stuff. Like, clearly I said my 5 guys that I've highlighted or that pop out to me that I should consider this weekend, the guys that I mentioned. And then past that, let's see where the practice data shows. That'll show you cannot fake speed at Phoenix, people. You just can't. You either have the speed or you don't. Your car is either rotating through the corner or it's not. You're either running fast or you're too loose, you're too tight. Like, you cannot fake speed at Phoenix. This is a track that trust the practice data. Trust where these guys are in long runs. That's where we're at. Past that. In terms of pricing, in terms of where these guys are, Todd Gilliland at $4,900 is interesting. Zane Smith, $52. I like Zane Smith. I'll probably end up wanting to go to him more than some other people. LaJoy, we're seeing that Spire is putting a ton of money into LaJoy. Coming out of nowhere with this speed, to be honest with you, in my opinion, but at least entering this year. But he has it. He's there. Gilliland, Smith, LaJoy, your cheap guys right now that I would want to focus on, okay? I'm probably not going to run with colleague unless we see something. We can always see something, okay? But that's just where I'm at, man. I don't really see any other like major pricing concerns or issues. Keselowski at 78 is interesting. The fact that he tests this car, the fact that we're seeing RFK make improvements in general, like they have more speed in general. I'm interested to see what Keselowski brings to the table. And the reason why I'm looking specifically at that range is, yet again, if let's just say you're running a core that is very similar to Larson, Truex, Hamlin, leaves you $6,700 on the table. You're going to at least probably need one 5K guy, depending on who that wants to be, depending on what you want to do. You play that, you're most likely going to end up in the 7K range. So, you're either right on the fringe of like getting Suarez in the 8 and 8.5. Josh Berry, depending on what he shows, Keselowski 7.8. But Dylan, Ryan Preece, I'm fine with that. He's burned people 2 weeks in a row. Got to have a short memory. Ty Gibbs, $6,700. I like that. I mean, this is kind of where I'm at. That's why I'm not really necessarily really focusing on a lot of drivers. I'm just kind of more focused on where I want to go and what I want to do entering this week. At least that's where I'm at. Feel free to join me on the live show on Sunday, and a live show on Saturday, and for the Xfinity Series and the Xfinity Series video. But that's where I'm at. Like 2018, 2017 practice data pit selection. That's where I'm at, man. And qualifying position, clearly. Hopefully this video helps you out. Maybe gives you a starting point that you weren't at before. It's kind of ballsy to just recommend, like, hey, just forget the last 4 years of data. But that's where I'm at, and that's what I'm doing. So I will see you guys then. I'll see you on Sunday.